So, I wanted to come here and talk to you guys about the data breach that's currently occurring in the federal government and to tell you where to really focus your attention, or at least a place to consider focusing your attention. It's not only about the data, it's something that is bigger than this. So, a few days ago, as a taunt to Sam Altman, Elon Musk offered to purchase OpenAI for 97, I believe, billion dollars. So, as some of you may or may not know, OpenAI, as it stands now, is a private company. So, they are not currently up for profit, although the ultimate goal, obviously, is to perhaps go public, IPO, sell shares, and if not, sell the company off outright. So, this got me thinking about XAI specifically. So, what XAI has to do with what's currently going on in the federal government is that in order to compete with OpenAI or DeepSeek for that matter, any of these AI machine learning companies, you need a very clean data set. So I work as a scientist. I've said this before. I'm a biochemist by training. I was also trained as a neuroscientist in my postdoc. But in the course of both of those jobs, I've had to work with large data sets, specifically analysis of proteins and protein structure, and in the neuroscience sense, looking specifically at different types of genes that could increase or decrease instances of Alzheimer's disease in mouse models. So I'll preface all this with saying that yes, while I have experience with these large data sets, I am not a bioinformatician, but I've sat in on meetings with bioinformaticians, software engineers, and people that generally build these algorithms and machine learning prediction models to understand where the data I have fits into their analysis. So, from my previous background or my current job, frankly, I've gleaned some insights into how these algorithms work. So, in order to make a very good predictive model or machine learning algorithm, you need very clean data. So, the thing is, it's hard to find this type of like very nice and neat data because there's a lot of caveats with the data that you get. Even large companies like, let's say, an Amazon, they can, predict, let's say, the purchasing habits of a woman between the ages of 28 and 35. I fall within that age range, so that's why I picked it. However, that data is caveated because they can only collect the data of women that age that are specifically using Amazon and logged into their Amazon Prime accounts, right? Because presumably you put in your date of birth and everything when you register for your account. So that's just to say that a lot of even these large companies, the data that they're working with is already caveated because it's specific to the people that are even inclined to use the service. This goes for Spotify, this goes for Amazon, Target, Netflix, what have you. So where does the federal government come in? Well, we know that currently DOGE is accessing a lot of data of the American people, from the Department of Education to, USAID, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, et cetera, et cetera. Well, who in this world has the largest statistical data set that encompasses a large swath of the American population? You guessed it, the federal government. We already know that Elon Musk has this AI company that he's hoping to outcompete OpenAI with. What better way to train an algorithm than to use data sets that are provided by the federal government? The federal government has information on every legal citizen that has been born and registered in this country since at least, I would say, 1960, let's say modern day. So Social Security, date of birth, area code, your zip code, where you went to school from the Department of Education, the amount of student loans that you carry from the Department of Education, perhaps even your credit card debt, household size, household income, jobs, federal tax records. I could go on and on. So the danger here is, unlike a Amazon or a Spotify or whatever company that you can think of, which has the data of people that specifically give it to them through registering for that service, Elon Musk now has access to the data of everyone living in America that he could use to train his AI machine learning models. The scariest part about this is that if, it's not a matter of if, it's actually when, they begin the data mining and the training of their AI with all of our information, do you think that AI is going to be copyrighted or belong to the US government, aka an extension of the American people? No. Elon Musk is going to take that AI with him and use it for his own purposes, which some of you will say, duh, I could have already gleaned that. But here's the part that you need to think about. So this is the part that really gets scary for me is, okay, Elon Musk makes this machine learning algorithm or artificial intelligence, right? He doesn't leave that to the federal government. The government will not own that. He will own it, and therefore he has the rights to license it. So what this licensing means that everything that you could purchase from a large company could be affected, and your prices, you could basically get what is the equivalent of Uber dynamic pricing for everything that you purchase because of this machine learning algorithm. With this highly trained data set, he can go out and say, hey, okay, United Healthcare, you typically only have access to the data of the people that specifically sign up for United Healthcare services. How about you start pricing things on the basis of the entire American population? So whereas United Healthcare, if they're, let's say, operating in Alabama, maybe 30, at best 40% of the people in Alabama have United Healthcare. Well, now if they have access to, Elon Musk's machine learning that has been, trained on everyone in the United States, and especially the state of Alabama in this case, United Healthcare can now price their product more precisely or increase their prices more precisely based on this large data set. So while, the people in Congress are flailing around talking about just the access to the data, the data, that's not where it stops. That's just the beginning. What is going to be interesting to see from future is, where does this data end up? Whose hands does it end up in? Elon Musk, that's my bet. How is it used to train these large data sets? And how is it going to be weaponized against the American people? You've already seen this in terms of getting insurance, any type of insurance. They get very specific about, your family history and all that stuff. This is going to be that on steroids, on a level you can't believe. And there's not going to be any escape from it, because my bet is he will license this algorithm to other companies within the United States, perhaps even the world, to understand buying patterns and to price things accordingly. Furthermore, these federal jobs that they're trying to get rid of, he is going to go into those data sets for all of those departments and start training AI on them so they can replace workers. That is the ultimate plan in the federal government. But what is that going to mean for the people in the private sector? How is that going to affect our daily lives? What we're able to watch, what we're able to purchase? Can we even be guaranteed fair pricing anymore? What will fair pricing even mean when you basically have an Uber dynamic pricing model applied to everything that you own in the United States? It's starting to sound a lot like you'll own nothing and you will be happy. Keep your eyes open and just consider things beyond, just a little bit beyond the surface of what you're being sold.
First of all, what is it based on? It's a large language model, so where is it pulling?
It's trained on everything.
On everything.
Internet, books, anything that could possibly be that's available in digital form.
So it's essentially very similar to ChatGPT, other than it doesn't have the woke parameters built into it. Like Google was the worst, right?
Yeah.
The Gemini was the worst.
Yeah.
And now to add to the confusion, there's a mass resignation, except this time it's DOGE staffers who are collectively calling it quits. 21 of them signing on to a letter that says DOGE is putting the country in danger, saying, quote, "We will not use our skills as technologists to compromise core government systems, jeopardize American sensitive data, or dismantle critical public services. We will not lend our expertise to carry out or legitimize DOGE's actions." So what in the world is going on?
Okay, so I wanted to follow up a little bit with my Doge and data video that went mini viral. So some people were commenting that, oh, this is a conspiracy, this is just conjecture. Well, a week after I published that video, Larry Ellison, who is the CEO and I believe also the founder of Oracle, which is a huge cloud computing manager of data, came out and said that he thinks that all US data should be consolidated into one place conveniently with Oracle, and this should include DNA data. And I've already said it before on here that I am a scientist by training, a biomedical scientist. My degree is in molecular genetics. This is an awful idea, especially if we do not get the ethics and the parameters upon which we can use AI under control. So in addition to wanting to consolidate all federal data to his cloud system, Larry Ellison also suggested that AI could be used to train and conduct surveillance within the United States. That raises a huge privacy concern. It is anti-freedom, it's anti-liberty, it's unpatriotic, and I find it very funny that the main people that had an issue with my initial video are people that would call themselves so-called patriots and for the American way, but this is anti-American. American citizens are not criminals. We cannot allow ourselves to be or allow these people to surveil us as if we are such. We have freedom of movement and we have freedom of speech, but that comes into peril when you're under complete surveillance, because whether you know it or not, you act in certain ways, you moderate your behavior. And I'm not talking about, not committing crime or not doing something that you know is illegal, but even speaking out against certain things because you are under surveillance. So I don't like the direction that this is going at all. I hope to do a deeper dive into that later, but just to give you a primer, especially with regards to the DNA data stuff, that is a huge problem because genes are not there. In a lot of instances, like we've sequenced the human genome. We know certain genes that are connected with certain diseases, but I'll give you Alzheimer's disease as an example. The number one genetic risk factor for Alzheimer's disease is an ApoE4 allele. So having that particular allele at the gene locus for ApoE, right? So, but the thing is, most people that get Alzheimer's disease are not ApoE4 positive, let's say. So even though that's a large genetic risk factor, that does not equate to actually getting disease in a lot of instances, because a lot of people just don't have it, right? But the point I'm making with regards to genes is that what if they consolidate all of this data, including criminal data, and then they start to find, quote unquote, or the AI predicts a link between, let's say, eye color and criminality. What does the government do with that information? Does the government just say, oh, well, there's this causal link and that's the end of it? Or would the government say, okay, people that, let's say, have gray eyes, they are at a slightly increased risk of committing larceny. Therefore, we need to be mindful and watchful of people with gray eyes. That is not the type of state you want to be in, because it's just the fact of having gray eyes in this instance is not a crime. It is a happenstance. And even if there is some type of link, people have their own individual motivations, and it doesn't mean that they are going to go on to commit crime. I think you can see where this is going with regards to crime and, let's say, skin color, eye color, hair texture, or other physical traits. It kind of leads to a slippery slope of eugenics. And people think that, this is conspiratorial or this is some type of science fiction nonsense. It really isn't, because we have people that are on the far right that do believe in these things, that do believe, your genes are your destiny. They believe in biodeterminism, whereby whatever is in your genetic code is a direct readout of how you're going to behave as a human being. But we know that nurture and your environment and other conditions have a big role in how people express their genes and their behavior ultimately. So I would suggest everyone read up on this. It's Larry Ellison, the founder and CEO of Oracle. He has suggested this. I already have come to my conclusion that I believe that Elon is training XAI with government data sets. And that's another thing. A lot of people were saying, the government already has all of this information. They already have all this information, even through PayPal and everything. That wasn't the point. The point was that it's all consolidated and it can be de-anonymized to, blackmail people or come up with be commercialized in some way that is against the American citizen. Also, this is a big thing that has been coming up in the AI world and the machine learning world, is that they're running out of data sets upon which to train these machine learning algorithms. Like, they've mined a lot of like protein data sets, genomic data sets to kind of learn let's say the molecular grammar behind DNA synthesis or how human genes came to be. But in other applications, they're running out of this data. The US has the biggest database of a modern society that is accessible to these people in the United States. And it's very important that we get control of it. We hammer out the ethics concerns around it. Impose some limitations on it so that it doesn't get out of control or get into the wrong hands. So that is just my quib for this morning. I wanted to send it straight out before I continued on with the rest of my day. I hope the rest of you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
If you want to improve population health, you have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform. So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link. We need to unify all of the national data, put it into a database where it's easily consumable by the AI model, and then ask whatever question you like.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to share with you a quick clip of Kara Swisher, who is an awesome tech reporter on the podcast The Bulwark. So it's a political podcast. This is my first time listening to it. And she basically supports all of my suspicions that I had in that DOGE and our data video. Please give it a listen. I'm going to insert a 2-minute clip, and I want you to listen to the whole thing.
Guess, if I had to guess, is he is behind one of the big debates going on right now in AI is we're running out of data. There's all the LLMs have sucked in all the data. Now they need more to have an advantage. And so that means that all the LLMs have become a commodity because they're all parsing the same information, right? That they've scraped everything they can. Is the biggest trove of information on the planet. US government is at this point, would be my guess, or China would be. The only other country that has it all consolidated is China, because it's a surveillance economy and it's a communist country. And so they want great control over their citizens. Our government data is siloed all over the place. What if someone could bring it all together and then load it into an LLM? That would make their LLM much better over time. So that's, to me, what they're looking for is this enormous amount of data that's never been brought together, sometimes for a very good reason. We don't want all our government agencies to know everything about everything else. So you can create an enormous database of everybody in a way that you could never have, and then combine it with public databases and commercial databases. It becomes a very powerful weapon.
Well, maybe this is the stupidest and most naive question on the planet.
Yeah.
Is that legal? Can he just do that?
Well, Trump is letting him. I mean, he shouldn't be able to, but yes, it's not legal. It's just he's doing it. He's just doing it. Like, I don't know where the data is going to go, but my guess would be not OpenAI, right? It's not going to go to OpenAI.
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand him getting in the data and like poking around. I guess I hadn't thought about him, though, exporting it into another system.
Or using it. Well, it can't be helpful unless it's exported into these things and analyzed. That's why they keep talking around the edges. Oh, we're going to put AI on everything to sort out the fraud. But what it really does is it puts AI on everything to give you insights, including about his competitors. I mean, this guy's, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why do you rob government agencies? Because that's where the data is.
So now that that's done, I hope that gives more credence to those people that were probably in doubt of what I was saying. There was people that were questioning my credentials, questioning my intellect, and all of that is fine and good. But here you have one of the preeminent tech reporters in the world, basically giving her theory of what Elon is doing with this data, blow for blow, and it mirrors in a lot of ways the concerns that I expressed in my Doge data video series. So maybe people will listen to her. I don't know. She is a white lesbian, so maybe they will use that as a way to discredit her as well. But yeah, looks like I'm not the only one. Hello, you guys. I just wanted to give a little bit of a update on Doge. So because of all the things that have been going on with the people that have been deported to El Salvador unconstitutionally, a lot of things with Doge have been kind of going under the radar. So apparently Doge is on its way out. That is the ramblings in Washington. I think if you've been paying any attention to Elon Musk lately, he has said that, he's going to exit from politics because of quote unquote relentless taunting and insults from the radical left. I don't think that's it, because I feel a lot of even conservatives don't really like him. But any case, Doge is on the way out. Also, another point for this is I live in San Francisco. I could have sworn I saw the kid, whatever the kid that goes by Big Balls. I could have sworn I saw that guy in downtown San Francisco on Sundays. So if that was really him, that would indicate that Doge is on the way out. But there's another more important thing to talk about. There was a whistleblower by the name of Daniel Barulius. He worked for the National Labor Relations Board in Washington. So this particular board, what they do is they look out for workers' rights. Like if you have to bring up a union complaint or you have to complain about unfair work conditions, you can go to them for recourse, right? So Doge, I guess, came barreling in either last month or earlier this month and asked for access to their servers, obviously, right? So Doge, they accessed this particular server that held a lot of like case data. So the case data is like if you are like a union organizer and you file a case with this particular board or this bureau, if you're a worker and you file a case, proprietary information on the types of companies and what companies are fighting cases that perhaps are not made public. So these are things that are completely internal to this particular board, this bureau, and Doge came in and gained access to all of this stuff. So this whistleblower was an IT staff, and he said that he noticed that not only did they gain access to this particular server, but there was a lot of data moving outward. So instead of inspecting the data that was already on the server independently, they were actually downloading it to something else, right? And he also made note that he didn't know where all of this data was going or who had access to it, because conveniently the log that tells you who accessed the data when, all of that stuff was erased around the time period that Doge had access. Perhaps even more sinister or scary was that within 15 minutes of the Doge team accessing or making passwords and usernames to access this particular the NLRB's servers and all of their data, within 15 minutes they were getting pings from Russia. So there was a person from Russia, or like maybe like some type of attempted hack happening within that time frame. So whatever they were doing in terms of exporting data was compromising the IT security, the cybersecurity of that federal government bureau. And what this whistleblower says is that the passwords and the usernames that they were attempting to use to gain access were actually correct. So this would indicate, if you put two and two together, that this attempted cybersecurity breach from Russia coincided with the removal of data from Doge. So like even they are not being secure in what it is that they're doing, which I could have already told you that people have found like some of these Doge staff on other websites, like forums for like coding, asking about like, oh, how can you do this type of code, or how can you download all of this data? So this whistleblower is like, we don't know where this data went. We don't know why he got access to it. I mean, the whistleblower in his interview with, I think, PBS or NPR kind of intimated it, and I'm inclined to agree that basically Elon Musk has had labor disputes before for Tesla. So I think it was in 2017, the LA Times ran an expose on like Tesla and how he worked as a boss. There was a particular section of the Tesla plant that they called the plantation, and there was like making African Americans work in that particular part of the plant. There was another guy that sued Tesla for like millions and millions of dollars, African American man, or I think maybe he was like Black Latino guy, regardless, Black male, that sued and won because of racial discrimination. Another like African American woman, same thing. So like they have these issues. So who knows what he's doing with this data? Likely he is using it for his own means. Like you've seen my DOGE and data series. He could like scoop out his competitors. He can scoop out who is actually leveling a complaint against him. Like let's say you make an anonymous complaint against Tesla. Now, if he has access to that data, he could feasibly see who has brought complaints to this particular government agency against Tesla, right? So you can use this for retaliatory purposes if that's what he wanted to do. You already know I've beaten this drum a million times. The data, is a great way to train AI, and he already has like sold XAI to X, like an internal sale, and he's probably mining data off of X2. Government data, even better if he can do that, especially since he wants X to be the WeChat of the United States. So I just wanted to say, I haven't forgot about the DOGE and data stuff. It feels like a lot of people have kind of moved on because there's a lot of egregious things that are happening in this administration. But the DOGE stuff, they're still up to their effery. However, it seems like they're on their way out. Of course, they did not find the fraud and abuse that they thought they would. Everything they found is basically spending that they personally do not like or they feel goes against the administration. There was nothing fraudulent because Congress already allocated all of this money to the entities that received it. So they went in and they did whatever BS they did, and they didn't even get a victory because the $2 trillion that they thought they were going to save after all of the lies, all of Trump and Musk's lies and fraud was exposed, basically those savings got reduced down to about $50 billion, if that. And they are trying to pass now a spending bill over the next 10 years that will add $10 trillion to the deficit. So that should already tell you that the whole cutting fraud, waste, and abuse thing, that was all a charade and a means to get back at political enemies or make MAGA zombies think that they were culling the deep state when they were just firing regular employees. Also, deep state doesn't even mean what they're saying. There's actually a technical meaning for the phrase deep state, and it's not someone that's working at NIH. But in any case, I just thought I would give you that update. I will plug here or somewhere in the video the title of the PBS article that I read about this and the NPR articles. Okay, be well.
Released today by the nonprofit group Whistleblower Aid about a whistleblower who's just come forward named Daniel Baroulis. Quote, Mr. Baroulis is coming forward today because of his concern that recent activity by members of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, have resulted in a significant cybersecurity breach that likely has and continues to expose our government to foreign intelligence and our nation's adversaries. This declaration details DOGE activity within the National Labor Relations Board, the exfiltration of data from NLRB systems, and concerningly, near real-time access by users in Russia. Notably, within minutes of DOGE personnel creating user accounts in NLRB systems, on multiple occasions, someone or something within Russia attempted to log in using all of the valid credentials, usernames and passwords. This, combined with verifiable data being systematically exfiltrated to unknown servers within the United States and perhaps abroad, merits investigation. Joining us now is NLRB whistleblower Daniel Baroulis and his attorney, Andrew Bakai. Mr. Baroulis, Mr. Bakai, I really appreciate you being here. I'm sure this is a stressful time for both of you and a stressful experience being on national. I really appreciate your trust to do this.
Hello. So I am here to give a little brief update on the DOGE and data series that I have currently going. So about 3 months ago, if you're new here, I made a video about DOGE and our data and the dangers of Elon Musk accessing all of this stuff under the guise of government efficiency. Well, we see the effects of this beginning to solidify. So I believe it was last night, if not late on Wednesday, that the House passed the big, beautiful bill that was proposed by the Trump administration that is going to make supposedly was meant to make austerity cuts, which never happened. Basically, long story short, is that none of the DOGE cuts have been solidified by Congress, which tells you, one, the effort was all one big sham, and two, like a lot of the DOGE cuts were even reversed in courts, or they're expected to be reversed. So basically, there was nothing gained from this whole DOGE effort. And basically, all of this fanfare was used to just get access to our data. This is what I've been saying for the longest. A lot of people are rejoicing in the fact that Elon Musk has seemingly been rejected by the Trump administration and sent on his way packing, which is true. I think in a lot of ways, maybe the administration and just like the political Republicans in House and Senate stepped in line with Trump, and Trump was like, okay, we're going to use Musk to make all of this fanfare about government efficiency, when in reality, we're going to pass a bill that is going to increase deficit spending and basically put us in more debt in the years to come. So they used all of this fanfare to get the little people being like, I'm a little person too, but I'm not MAGA, but basically the MAGA people on board with all of this stuff, so they can feel like they're making cuts and they're owning libs and owning USAID people, when in reality, none of that stuff is probably going to come to pass, or it could easily be reinstated by the next president, who may or may not be a Democrat. But anyways, I just wanted to come here and say, don't rejoice just yet. Like, Elon Musk is pouting and doing all of this BS with his press tour, and people are kind of relishing in that. But the thing is, it's kind of like mission accomplished for him already. He already has the data. Funny enough, Steve Bannon also jumped on this like DOGE data bandwagon type thing. I don't know if he saw my video. I don't think so, because I'm like nobody. I'm just a random person making videos in my car. But he even said that Elon Musk, there needs to be some type of investigation to understand where the data has gone. Granted, Bannon is historically not a fan of Elon Musk, but Bannon is right, and I'm glad to hear, I don't care if they're a Democrat or a Republican, I'm glad to hear people that have further reach and more ostensibly influence than I are making a case for this hypothesis that, you know, Elon Musk took this data, is now training XAI with it. Other developments, I think some of you have heard that basically XAI was sold, quote unquote, to Twitter, which of course both are owned by Elon, but it was basically a deal to merge the two companies in secret, right, without oversight. And now I think he's probably also training XAI on like Twitter user data. He has said before that he wants X, aka Twitter, to be basically the WeChat of the Western world or the United States. So you see this consolidation of companies, and also, you know, trying to frantically get access to data so you can train these LLMs and all of these AIs and things like that. So this was just my morning rambling for today. I hope you all have a happy rest of your week. Today is Thursday, so the weekend is almost here. It's almost Memorial Day weekend. Shout out to the veterans. We remember you, but also we are going to enjoy our 3-day weekend, hopefully. Okay, bye-bye.
To this day, I still have constituents who are, good, serious people who are convinced that Elon Musk is this masterful businessman who really understands how to, get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, and excess staffing and efficiencies that would make a company grow. And what this shows is, in fact, the promise he made with the president during the campaign, This is the promise that he made right after Inauguration Day, $1 trillion of savings through DOGE. And then just a few weeks ago announced, well, it's going to be about $150 billion. And then when you drill down on that, $92 billion, there was no wall of receipts, which he promised also. It's a complete scam in terms of, but the problem is that DOGE was given totally free rein with no legal basis to just sort of rummage through government, including, again, personal data.
What is happening with our personal data under Elon Musk and DOGE?
So one of the things that, again, months ago really blew up the phones in my office was the news that they were, again, rummaging through the Social Security Administration, which, again, has data on every single American from really birth to end of life. And you know, again, that's something that has always been sort of in a separate, almost vault in the government with very limited personnel with permission to go through it. Again, a court sort of slowed them down in terms of just how deep they could get into it. But, you know, for a lot of people, it was just like, what are they doing? Why do they need that information? And this morning's Washington Post, again, has a big, lengthy story which basically describes what the plan is, which is that they want to create a centralized database of all sort of government information on every American, which is, again, the opposite of really what anybody who's a cyber expert tells you is the best way to protect privacy.
So is this the biggest data breach in American history?
It is, because you're consolidating agencies that, again, had separate walls,
almost,
correct?
Right?
Yeah, Department of Health and Human Services, which has people's medical information. The Social Security Department, which has all personal identification information. Immigration, IRS. So it's all in one big system, which actually increases the risk of hacking and vulnerability. Contact your Democratic member, you know, try to contact Republican members, talk to friends and family in other parts of the country.
Okay, so from a representative's mouth, even if it's a Republican lawmaker, call.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely.
Right?
If anything, people need to step it up.
Step it up, okay? You heard it from him, and I trust this man already, because he travels with charts.